What's up, you guys? Today's animated series review is about a professor and his college students whom travel around the world to protect innocent civilians from criminals and well-known universal monsters, and I'm talking about Monster Force. Monster Force, the animated series, aired in 1994, containing only one season with a total of 13 episodes. The series begins with a couple of students in search for various relics throughout the world that can help put an end to these so-called monsters that are inheriting the Earth, all guided by their professor named Dr. Reed Crawley. Set in the year 2020 with highly advanced technology, Dr. Crawley, whom is also a scientist, created these unique suits of armor for his selective students, otherwise known as EMACs, aka Energized Monster Armed Containment Suit. This allows each student to be given the ability to defend themselves from danger and are given the group name Monster Force. So within the Monster Force, aside from Dr. Reed Crawley, aka Doc, you have Trip Hansen, the martial artist, Lance McGruger, the strongest member of the team, Shelley Frank, the psychic and only female to the group, Luke Talbot, the only character who can transform into the Wolfman, and Frank, aka Frankenstein, an experiment created by a scientist whom acts human. Then you also have some other allies like the Bride, the Toro Chief, Solomon, Caliega, and Honor Santiago. As for the villains, who are also called the bad guys, you have Dracula, aka Dracul, Mr. Remfield, the creature from the Black Lagoon, Hotep, aka the Mummy, and Niles, aka the Werewolf. Then you have some other scientists and explorers. Throughout the show, the Monster Force are seen traveling from numerous locations within various vehicles, whether it's temples, underwater, or even Transylvania, all for the sake of their main objective, which is to prevent the monsters from overtaking the world. Their headquarters can also be seen under a mansion within a cave underground. Because there are riots taking place from different towns, seeing how the people living there are either turning into vampires or werewolves, it's up to the Monster Force to put an end to it. The show does a decent job at giving us some glimpses of the past of some characters as we learn the history of the universal monsters. For example, Luke, who can transform into the Wolfman, is often haunted and obsessed with finding the killer of his grandfather who was once attacked by a werewolf. This also leads to him trying to find a special cane that can control all the werewolves. Although the Grudge continues to get justice for his ancestors, some episodes do leave you on a good cliffhanger. Then you have Dracul, who appears the most in the show, trying to find all sorts of relics like amulets or ceremonial garments, all for the sake of immortality. In one episode, he holds a ceremony with vampires and comes close to, but of course is defeated. He's also the only character who fights with the Mummy and Frankenstein, giving us a classic battle. And not to mention, we also get to see the history of the vampires being born in Transylvania. As for the creature from the Black Lagoon, he's probably my favorite, though not having much episodes to shine on his own, but he did look pretty awesome. And seeing how the Mummy was revived thanks to some explorers made his appearance in the show even more entertaining, although not doing much aside from either using Anubis to cause havoc on the Monster Force, or working together with Dracul to get Frankenstein to join the bad guys. But thanks to Shelley and Frankenstein's humble connection, it doesn't work in their favor. And speaking of Frankenstein, there's a pretty cool episode involving him and his bride as we see the origins of their creation, as Shelley's grandfather experimented on them both. But when the bride gets into the wrong hands and gets chased down by the military, she ends up realizing her worth, and what she decides at the end of this episode is actually pretty sad. Aside from that, Shelley is the only character who kinda shines the most, as her telekinetic powers helps the Monster Force in numerous ways, regardless if it almost kills her. Her ability to see the future also provides help to stop Dracul in his mischievous ways. Besides from also fighting skeletons, ghosts, yetis, and many more, the show really doesn't offer too much detail or depth to characters to make each of them shine on their own. Sure, the series does focus more on the universal monsters and the humans, but other than Luke and Shelley, the other three barely get any backstory to give us a reason to care about them. By the end of the series, almost every bad guy is captured with the exception of Dracul, who continues his quest for immortality and winds up in a situation that allows the Monster Force to assure he's gone for good. However, knowing that the journey is far from over, Dr. Crawley states there's still more out there and it's far from over and won't stop until the world is safe. This show is actually not that bad for its limited amount of storytelling it offers. The concept of using classic monsters in a futuristic setting is pretty awesome, and seeing how we learn about the origins of a few characters makes up for the lack of direction. If only they had a proper way to conclude the show or indicate how these students were chosen would have helped, but it's still a decent watch nonetheless. Therefore, Monster Force, the animated series, gets a C+. Thanks for watching. Be sure to give a like and subscribe for more animated series reviews, and stay tuned for the next episode.